Hi everyone, this is slimane, and in this tutorial I'm gonna show you how to use ASP.NET Identity to create user account. So we will start with a basic empty MVC project. So the first thing we need to do is to add some packages. So let's open up the NuGet Package Manager. So right click your project, manage NuGet packages, go to the browse packages. So the first package that we will add to our project will be Microsoft.ASP.NET.Identity.Entity Framework. So let's hit install. I will cut the video until the installation is done, and then I will be back. Okay, so you will have this pop up here. You have to click on OK, click on accept, wait for the package to be installed. Okay, so once the first package is installed, let's go ahead and install the second package. The second package is Microsoft.ASP.NET.Identity.ON. Do the same thing for the second package, and after that we will add the last package. So do the same, click on OK, and then hit the accept button and wait for the package to be installed. And finally we will add the last package, which is following Microsoft.on.host.system.web. So hit enter, install. So OK, I accept. And finally we are done with the boring package installation. So let's get started. Let me just rebuild the whole solution. Now what we will do is we are going to add some classes to my project. So I will add a new folder. I'm gonna call it, for example, I don't know, maybe data access data. I'm gonna just call it data. Here I'm going to add new class. I'm gonna call it, for example, I don't know, tutorial contexts. So this will be our context class. So tutorial context. Okay, so this is our first class. We will add the inheritance here after a while. The second class that we are going to add is the Orange startup class. So add a new element. So web. So here choose. So my IDE is in French. So if you are using Visual Studio in the English language, you have to find the ON startup class. So here it's written class de démarrage ON. So in English it will be ON startup class. So just name it, remove the one and name it startup. Okay, so this is the fundamental part of our project. So here we will be configuring our application to use identity and many other middleware. So we will be writing some code here. Okay, so the next step is that we will go back to the data folder, and we will add another class I'm gonna call it user manager. So here, user manager. Okay, so after that, we are going to configure our application to make it able to use identity. So let's open the web.config file. So in the web.config file, just add this line of code. So it contains a new, that means we are going to need to add a new setting that contains a key, a pair of key and value. So the key, you can call it whatever you want, but the value you have to specify in the first part the name of your project. So here the name of my project is identity tutorials. So here I have to write identity tutorials, then point dot startup, which is the name of the class which I created a little bit earlier or later. Oh. And the final part is configuration. So if you open up the startup class here, you will find that it contains a configuration file. So the first part of the value is the identity, the name of your project. The second part is the name of the class, which is in my case the startup.cs file class. And the final part is the configuration file that comes up inside with the startup class. So this is a very important method that we will be using to configure the middlewares like SignalR, identity that will be used inside our project. So make sure to add this line, because without adding this line you will not be able to use identity inside your project. So after that we will jump into the tutorial context class, our DB context class, and we are going to make it inherit from identity context, and make sure to add the appropriate using statements. Okay, before diving into the tutorial context class and writing some code here, I will define the model first. So here inside the model folder, or wherever you want, we are not you can create your model wherever you want. So I'm going to create a new class. I'm gonna call it application user. So this class is going to inherit from identity user, and again you have to add the appropriate using statements. So the identity user class is a identity user is a class that is so it's not built-in that comes up with identity, and it provides some basic attributes that we will need to create our model. So identity user, for example, provides the password, email, phone, confirm email attributes, and so on. And if you want to customize your model to add some other more attributes like age, I don't know, so you are free to add the attributes that you want to your model. So after that, I'm going to add a new model, a new class. I'm gonna call it customer, and this class will inherit from application user. And I will explain later why I did not made customer inherit directly from identity user, and why I will explain why I made application user inherit from identity user, then I made customer inherit from application user. So here I'm going to add some attributes, for example, like public int age. Let's just make it string because we are not going to make any processing to the age property. So age get set public string country get set. So let's just stop here and use those two modules attributes, sorry, not modules, it's just attributes. Okay, so after creating our modules, I'm going to add another class. I'm going to call it public customer model public class name public class create customer model. Okay, so here I'm going to define the attributes that I will need to create my model. So here I will public. I will add another public string. I will add here public string name. And here I will use last name. So now I'm going to copy just to copy and paste these attributes. I'm going to add some more attributes. So public string email get and set. Here we are going to define some validation. I'm going to write data type So, okay, after creating our model, so let me repeat. I created the application user class that inherit from identity user. Identity user comes with identity, is provided by identity. This class provides us with some basic attributes like password, email, username, and many other attributes that we will use in future tutorials. For this tutorial, I will just show you how to create user accounts with identity. After that, I created the customer, my model customer class that inherits from application user. So our customer class will be using the built-in properties that application user inherit from identity user, and this is our create customer model that we will be using to create our entities. So if you notice here, I have added the data annotation here required, so all the fields here are required, and the password and email here are of, I specify the data type of email address for email, password, and password for password, of course. So after that, I will jump back to the tutorial context, and we'll be writing some code here. So now we are going to specify the type here. So application user So I told you that I will explain how did I create application user class that inherit from identity user and customer that inherit from application user. So let's suppose that you have multiple entities that will have to authenticate. For example, you have an administrator, customer, you have I don't know. For example, let's suppose that we have 5 entities that need to authenticate and register in your application. If you make every entity that inherit from identity user here, you cannot specify them all here. For example, if you have for example customer, let's say customer, and another model that's called, for example, administrator. So here, as you can see, you cannot specify 2 classes. You can only specify one type. So that's why I created the application user superclass that the other modules that will need to authenticate and use identity that will inherit from. And here I only have to specify application user. Okay, after that, so here I'm going to create the class constructor that inherits from the constructor of the superclass. So here, this is the name of my connection string that will allow me to establish the connection to my database. So I forget about it, but now we have to add it. So just copy this name here. Let me just save this file here. Let's open up the web.config file. So here I have added my connection string, like I said, that will allow me to establish the connection to my database. So I will, let me just copy the name here, and I'm gonna just put it here. So just below the end tag of the config sections tag, just copy and paste this line, or write it. You don't, if you have another project, for example, that contains a connection string, just copy and paste it in your new projects, and just change the name, and of course change the connection string itself, because if you are using another if you are following me in this tutorial, you will have to use SQL Server, and in my case I am using SQL Server 2014. So here you only have to, in the catalog here, you have to specify the name of your database. So I called my database identity tutorial. So this is how you add the connection string to your project. Just save this file and close it, and let's go back to our context class. So after, okay, and now I have finished configuring and creating our tutorial context class. So here, if you let me just zoom in. So I've created a static method here that returns a tutorial context. We'll be using this method inside our user manager class, and we will talk later about the user manager class. And here I have added a DB set of my customer entity. So that's all you have to add to your context class. And by the way, you can name it to whatever you want. In my case, I have called tutorial context. You can call it whatever you want. Okay, after that, let's jump in to the user manager class. So briefly, the user manager class allows us to manage, like its name tell us, user manager, that allow us to manage instances of users. For example, it comes with built-in functions, methods like create user, find user by email, find by ID, delete user, update user, and many other methods. So we will be using this class and its methods to manipulate our users that are saved to our database and that we will be creating later. So the first step to do to create our user manager class is to make it inherit from the user manager class. So here I have to add the user manager, and make the appropriate uh, using statements. So I have to add the type, so application user, and again you add the using statements. And now we have to generate a constructor for this class. So this is how our user manager class will look like. Sorry, after adding the appropriate configuration. So I have added a static method that returns an instance of user manager, because in our controller we will need an instance of the user manager to create, to find, or to do whatever action on our users. So here it takes um, sorry, just I will cut the video for just 1 minute, and we have to write these 2 lines of code here, and make sure to add the appropriate using statements, and those are just some validation. So as you can see here, allow only alphanumerics names, so that means the username uh, can contain some alphanumeric uh, in it, and here required unique email. That means that we cannot have duplicated emails for users, and there is more validation validation like that. You can check the documentation on the internet if you are interested. And here there are some validation for the password. As you can see here, required length. So I specified that the minimum length of the password must be 8 characters. Um, Require non-letter or digit is set to false. Required digit false. Required lowercase, etc. So you can check more validators online on the internet, on the Microsoft official websites. And finally, we will return the instance of the user manager, and that's all for the user manager class. So after that, we will jump to the controller. We will create the views, and we will test our little chunk of application. So let's add a new controller. So controller, an empty one. Let's call it customer controller. I'm going to create. I'm gonna call it just create customer, and I will add in a new view. I'll be using the create model, create customer model. We'll use the default layout page, and let's hit add. So this is our generated view. I will not add any style sheets to it, because I don't want to make the video any longer than that, because it's already 24 minutes, and I don't want to make it more longer than that. So let's jump to the controller again. I'm going to create a new action that will handle the user creation. So this will be a post that will have a customer create model. So customer create model, customer create model. Let's add it. Okay, so now I'm going to suspend the video for a few minutes so I can write the code quickly, because I don't want to, like I told you, I don't want to make the video longer than that. So I will pause the video, write the code, and after I finish I will play the video and show you the code that you will be using to register your user. See. Okay, so now I will show you the final part that we have to add to our startup class before I show you the code inside the customer controller. So the final part is that we have to add this line of code inside the configuration method that belongs to the startup class. So inside the configuration, add these two line of code. So the create per own context interface allow us to create a user manager and tutorial context instances per request. So we don't have any problems with the poor data cache, etc. So make sure to add these two lines of code. And as you can see, if you can notice here that we are using the two static create method inside the tutorial context class and the user manager class. These two methods are static. If you take a look here, the tutorial context that returns an instance of the tutorial context, and this method here allows to return an instance of user manager class. And after that, and these line of codes, this allow us to set this line of code here tells identity how to use cookie to identify authenticated users, and we set the options here. As you can see, authentication type, default authentication type, start application cookie, and finally the login path. This parameter here allow us to specify the route to which the user will be redirected if he is not authenticated and he wants to access an URL that the user must be authenticated to access. So that's all you have to add to the startup class. And finally, here we have the controller. So things here are pretty simple. Just make sure to add this property of type user manager that returns an instance of the user manager, because we will need the user manager here, because like I told you, it allows us to manage users by creating, deleting, finding, insertion, etc. So this is our controller. It contains a get action that allows to return the view that we will use to that contains the form that will allow us to create our customer, and this is our post action that have the same name of the get action. So as you can see here, I create an identity results object, and then I will check. So first of all, this action here is asynchronous, and the type here is task. So I'm not going to explain what is async and what is task, because it's not the subject of this video. I will show you and I will explain in future tutorials what we mean by async. Async, it's the abbreviation of asynchronous, but I have to explain furthermore to make things clearer, and I will explain that in other tutorials. But for the sake of simplicity, I will just ignore those two words for now. So let's continue. So this action takes as parameters the create customer model. So I create a identity results object. So in the first place, I check if the model state. That means when I submit the form, that form will contain, of course, some entries, the name, the last name. So this property is here and is valid. See, checks if the model is valid. Checks if I entered all the required attribute of the model. Okay, it checks if the username is there, the name is there, the last name is there, etc., etc. So here I englobe the result. Then I use the object, the result, the identity result object to get the results of this operation, which is the user manager that will create a new user, and this method here takes the customer object, which contains the multiple attributes and the model password. Okay, so here you don't have to add these try catch pieces here if you don't want to. And then I check if result is succeeded. So here comes the use of the result, the identity result object. I check if this operation has succeeded. So if it has succeeded, this results, this succeeded property will be true, and then I will return the view, the same view, but I will append this this message to the view. Or if the operation did not succeeded, I will print this message to the view. And if the model state is not valid, for example, you entered all the attributes, or you entered all the fields, but you forgot to enter the country or the email, so you will be redirected to the same view with the same form, with the entries that you have entered, and with an error validation that tells you that or this attribute is missing. So let me now test this little application. So I will start my application. Let me call it, let me put my name, country will be Tunisia, the email, and this is my password. Okay, as you can see here, I am redirected to the same page, and this message was added to the appended to my view. So customer created successfully. If we when we will check now in the SQL Server Management Studio, and I will check if the user really exists in our database or not. So this is our database. So as you can see here, our user was added to our database successfully. So that's all for this tutorial today. I hope you liked this tutorial, and see you in the next lesson. Bye bye.